Welcome to the Win, Make, Give podcast. Chad Hyams here, and I'm sort of flying solo. You know it, folks. Doesn't mean it's a monologue when I say I'm flying solo. It means we just don't get the fun of Bob Stewart being on the other side of the podcast with me, where we can make him cry, tear up, something along those areas when we talk about his kids, his family. We dive deep into his emotions. By the way, Bob's not here. If you know his therapist, connect me with her so we can get her on as a guest. We want the truth. Folks, make sure you visit winmakegive.com because we're not the only show in our world. And we want you to be able to check out some of the others that might be out there for you. Tell Me Something Good with Clint Swindoll just released new version of the book. So if you haven't read it, haven't listened to it, check it out. Go to winmakegive.com to learn more. Now let's get into today's episode. And I'm going to give you a behind the scenes Win, Make, Give moment. We've kind of done this before, kind of. Because last time I had the pleasure of having this guest on, about halfway through our interview, the internet went and we just lost everything. So folks, some of this might be a repeat. I don't remember what I said well enough to say it's going to be. Some of it might not be. So if all of a sudden Anne and I say to each other, wait, didn't we already talk about that? We might just be getting confused over our last recording to this one, yet it's going to be just as much fun this time. Plus, I'll give you a little insight. She said, I didn't like my answers anyway. I think she crashed the internet to get out of that recording. I want to welcome back, sort of, to the Win, Make, Give podcast, Anne Grady. Anne, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me back, Chad.
We don't do bios, as you may remember from last time, so I'm going to put you on the spot once again. Introduce yourself to our audience. Who are you? Where are you? Why are you? Whatever it is you want to share about Anne Grady.
Well, I'm Anne Grady. I am just outside of Austin, Texas, and I am an author, speaker, trainer, survivor, optimist. I work with organizations to help them bounce back better and to adapt faster and lead more effectively. And that's what I do work-wise. Personally, I live on this really cool 20-acre ranch in the middle of nowhere where I have donkeys, cows, and a riding lawnmower named Marilyn Monroe.
Okay, if your lawnmower has a name, I got to ask the donkeys' names because they've got to be fun as well, I would think.
Well, the donkeys had their names. They're adopted special needs donkeys, Wendy and Daisy. But I did name my first two cows Laverne and Shirley.
Okay, that's fair. We've got geese that live behind us that we've named Fred and Ethel because they're always arguing with each other and yelling and yapping at each other. Folks, if you don't know who Laverne and Shirley or Fred and Ethel are, you might be too young. Okay, and our audience knows we don't have video that we record. That's so we can see each other. It's just a little more conversational instead of staring at a blank screen. I remember last time, and you've already hinted at it, that I said we knew we were going to have an interesting conversation because on one side of you, I have a color-coordinated bookcase, right? It is the rainbow, folks. I see it going from reds through oranges to yellows to blues and all that. And on the other side of you, I got to guess it's about a 6 foot tall indoor cactus that I don't think
it's 9 foot tall. 9 feet tall, Chad.
And a painting of a donkey. Right. So I knew we were in for an interesting conversation. I will tell you, when we did talk the first time, audience, it was raining where you were because you did tell me the donkeys were hiding under the covered patio and literally pressing their noses to the window right where you were.
It was hard to have a serious conversation with the brain behind me.
They are under control. The donkeys are being better behaved so Anne can be focused. Anne, you wrote a book called EvolvAbility. Now, folks, you can get the book. The easiest way to get the book is go to EvolvAbility. It's EVOLV ability. EvolvAbility, right? Not that difficult. Obviously, you can go to Amazon if you want the easy way out. Yet, if you go to the website EvolvAbility, you'll get a lot more about Anne. You'll get a lot more about the book. You'll get some additional information that's there for you to check it out. What motivated you to write this book?
Well, I think we talked last time, but my story kind of began with my son, Evan, who was born with some intense special needs, mental illness, autism, developmental delays. And his life has been pretty challenging. He's now 23 years old, but it's been filled with psychiatric hospitals and residential treatment centers. And he currently lives in a group home. And so I spent the first 20 years of my career studying resilience. How do I bounce back? And I learned a ton. Some things I was doing were helping my resilience, other things were hurting it, and I didn't even realize it. So my career has been trying to brain hack, for lack of a better word, create these life hacks that allow you to bounce back. But at some point, I realized that resilience is survival, not growth. And given the world we live in today, it's not enough to just bounce back. We have to adapt and change and grow forward because life is always throwing some curveball our direction. And it's not enough to just bounce back anymore. We have to grow forward. And that's what adaptability is.
I love that. I mean, the quote that comes to my mind, and I don't know who I'm supposed to attribute it this to, and I'll usually quote things wrong. It's that history is bound to repeat itself, right? If we just bounce back, history is going to knock us down again. We're going to get back. History is going to knock us down again.
Yeah.
History doesn't have to mean eons or decades ago, folks. It could be last week. And what you're saying is it's not just about being able to bounce back anymore. It's about being able to bounce back and keep moving forward so that we're not in that spot for history to repeat and just knock us backwards.
And correct. And it's a skill, right? I used to think resilience was in your genetics. It's not. I used to think adaptability was something you're born with. It's not. And, I'm the first one to say change is hard and I don't always like it. And, I watched your TED talk and you were talking about how setbacks aren't always, necessarily hard or bad, they're invitations. And so what I've learned throughout my career working with incredible teams and executives at companies around the world like Google and Microsoft and Johnson and Johnson and Lockheed Martin is that everybody's on this road called life together, and the skills that we can practice intentionally to navigate those bumps also apply in the workplace, right? Because your workplace is just filled with people. And I think sometimes, especially with social media, it can easily feel like everybody else has it all figured out. Like how are they navigating life so easily when it feels like it's always an uphill battle? And I'm here to tell you I've met some of the coolest leaders around the world and not one of them has it all figured out. Nobody does. We're all going through the same experience. Well, we each have our own version of the experience, but we're all going through life, which is obstacles, setbacks, opportunities, growth, and how we navigate it really determines our happiness, our well-being, our physical health, everything in between.
Yeah, folks, when it comes to a marathon, I love to use the analogy. That audience. Comes to a marathon, everybody's running it.
Yep.
Some people are running it really fast. Some people are running it for the first time and it's going to take them really long. Some people are sitting on the sofa and have chosen not to run it or even be aware of it, yet it's still a choice because that marathon happened in this thing called life. We don't participate in all parts of it. So our stories are all different, yet we're all moving forward at the same time, same place. I think that's great. And I love, and I want to give you permission to open this up. Okay. On Win, Make, Give, we believe it's health, wealth, leadership, and legacy. And we understand that's not just a business, right? Health right there, right off the bat. Yeah, sure. You need a healthy business, yet you need a healthy life because otherwise you're not going to be around for the wealth, the legacy, the leadership pieces of it. So we're okay as we're talking. You're saying, yes, business is just like life. It's okay if we talk life also, right? This happens at home as much as it happens in our workplace.
Right. And, I spent most of my life chasing achievement. I'm a
As in awards when you say that?
As in bigger
promotions?
Well, not necessarily. I'm very goal oriented. I've always been achievement oriented. So I went from being a straight A student and getting my master's to I have to do the job and have the family and get promoted and da 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 da. And I'm 51 years old now. And I think as a lot of people do in midlife, you start to reevaluate what you're chasing. And for the first time in my life, I've realized it's more important to chase alignment than achievement. And I think teams and organizations are struggling right now because they're so many rapid changes. There's so much uncertainty. And as you know, to the brain, uncertainty registers as a threat.
Mm-hmm.
And the more time you spend in a state of hypervigilance and threat, the easier it is for your brain to default there. So you've got people who are exhausted mentally, who may be experiencing burnout. Depression has increased tenfold. Anxiety is like through the roof. And so you've got all of these leaders who are tasked now, not just with managing the work and leading the people, but managing existential crises, like trying to be a therapist and a motivator and a manager all in one. And so I think you have to give people the tools to build the skills to adapt. Because yes, you can use them at home, you can use them at work. We're just people, right? We're just people. We all put our pants on one leg at a time. We're just trying to figure it out.
You do? I jump in the air and pull both up at the same time.
That's impressive.
Just to be different.
That's impressive. I put my arms through the holes first and stretch them out. No.
I want to congratulate you on knowing that you're going to live to 102 years old, because 51 being midlife.
Hey, my grandfather just passed away at 100. So
all right, so you might truly be at midlife. I got a few years on you, and I'm looking at the math, and I'm going, wait, what happened to midlife? I've already gone past that. Audience, double your age. Are you at midlife? Think about it for a second. Is it time for that crisis? Okay, and give our audience, we have resilience. That was the first thing you talked about, and resilience is very important. And then we have evolvability, right? Which is going beyond resistance. Let's start, if it's okay, just with some resilience stuff.
Sure.
Give me some lessons. Give me some of the brain hacks, life hacks you came up with that you share, you teach, that you might touch on in the book to entice me to want to go read more. Give me some of those resilience lessons so I can at least start with, how do I get back to status quo? Then I'll work on evolving and moving forward.
Okay, so if you've ever gotten a performance review, you've probably been told, let's say you're told you do 9 things exceptionally well, and you have 1 opportunity for growth. Now, when you're lying in bed at night and you're ruminating about your day, which are you focused on?
Are you asking me, or are you putting out that as a general question?
I'm asking you.
Because if you're asking me, I know to focus on the 9. That's who I am, because I know, and I've justified in my head, that they always at a performance review have to find an opportunity for you. So I'm not going to let it beat me up that there is one. That's just me, folks. I'm a little weird. Yes, most people would lay in bed tossing and turning about the one thing that they were told was an opportunity, because no one's going to get a perfect review ever.
Well, and the point is that our brain naturally gravitates toward the negative. It magnifies it because it's a protection mechanism. You know, when we were trying to outrun predators and find food, your brain was in a constant state of hypervigilance. It was always looking for threats. As we've evolved, your brain can't differentiate a tiger chasing you versus a snarky email. And anytime your brain is in a state of threat, you lose access to the ability to regulate your emotions, maintain focus. You're less empathetic. You have less willpower. So all of these abilities that the human brain has fly out the window because we're so focused on protection. Well, we have something called experience-dependent neuroplasticity. And it's a fancy way for saying the more you think and behave a certain way, the easier it is to think and behave that way. Now, most people would assume that your brain is working for you. And that would be true if your only job is to stay alive.
Right.
Unfortunately, your brain does not care if you're happy or grounded or in love or have work-life balance. Your brain just wants you alive. So one of the greatest lessons for resilience is that we have to use our mind to change our brain. And what I mean by that is we have the power to offset that negativity bias. We have the power to use our beliefs to physically change our biology. I mean, something as simple as the way you think about stress drives the way your body responds to it. So Aaliyah Crum out of Stanford did this incredible research. And basically what they found is chronic stress, long-term chronic stress, doesn't matter how you look at it, it's not good for you, because when you're under a state of stress, your immune system is suppressed, reproduction stops, metabolism slows, all kinds of bad things happen when you're on chronic sustained stress. Short term, though, you're at the end of a quarter and you're trying to meet your goal or your deadline, or you've got company coming and you're scrambling around trying to clean your house at the last minute. The impact that it has on you physiologically, 100% is determined by how you think about the stress. So, for example, if you feel stressed and you view it as, you know what, my body's just preparing me, it's making sure that I'm alert, that I'm ready, that I'm activated so that I have, the tools and resources I need to deal with the situation. Stress has zero negative effect and lots of positive effects. If you go into it thinking, I'm so stressed, I'm so overwhelmed, this is so hard, oh my gosh, this is so bad for me, it actually has the opposite effect, which is it's bad for you. It impacts the way your heart works, it impacts the way your brain and nervous system work. So the first step of resilience is understanding that your mindset is a toolbox where resilience lives. And so I'll give you one skill that you can use immediately.
Thank you.
Most of us sleep with our phone next to our bed. Mm-hmm. And the reason that we give ourselves is that it's our alarm clock.
Yep.
Well, guess what? They make those. And your phone is like having a slot machine next to your night table or on your night table. It is a dopamine cortisol triggering device. And basically what happens is it disrupts the way we sleep. It creates a lot of stress that we don't need. And so 80% of adults check their phone within the first few minutes of waking up. This is when your negativity bias is the strongest, meaning when you expose your brain to negative stimulus, the news, social media, email, you don't even realize it, but you will spend your day scanning your environment for everything that's wrong, unfair, frustrating, annoying. Give your brain the gift of 30 minutes in the morning without your device. Don't check email. Don't watch the news. Don't compare yourself on social media. You can listen to something uplifting. You can pray. You can meditate. You can take a walk. You can make coffee. You can snuggle your dog. But give your brain a chance to wake up and wind down without your device. Your life will change.
Half hour is a great start for those of you who can't. That's my hour in the morning, right? I get up and I'm in the gym before I bother to care what's going on in the world, so it doesn't impact me getting in what's important to me. As you're saying, that's a great skill for everyone to remember. And folks, please make sure that your phone is on a do not disturb if it is near your bed for some reason and it's right there, so that it's not beeping and binging and doing all that stuff all night long while you're supposed to be asleep. Right?
We think that, but you know what? I live near Austin, and University of Texas did research. Just having your phone on the table next to you, even if it's in do not disturb, is going to limit cognitive bandwidth, working memory, and self-control. So we have it attached to us like it's an appendage, and we feel naked when we go somewhere without it. But in reality, it's become this addictive habit. And so one thing you can do is just pay attention to how often you reach for your phone. The research shows we tap, swipe, click, touch our phone 2,617 times a day. You spend more time with this device than the people that you love. It has no heart rate, no pulse, no emotion. And we spend more time in this relationship than any others. Well, self-care is not a bubble bath, it's a boundary. And some of the most important boundaries are the ones we set for ourselves. And your devices are a big part of that.
I'm sitting here. Self-care is not a bubble bath. It's a boundary. I love that, because so many people will say self-care, oh, I'm going to go take a bath and be on my own. And then they usually bring their cell phone with them anyway.
Right.
And then they're not. It's boundaries that we put around us. I think that's fantastic. I've heard so many statistics. We actually sleep closer to our cell phone than we do our partner, for those of us in a relationship, because we roll naturally to our side of the bed, putting us closer to our phone than to where they are sleeping. Yeah. And I heard another one that came earlier in your conversation, which is about the number of thoughts we have in a day. And like 90% of them are repeated from yesterday, and 80% of those are negative, right? It's the natural negative thought that's coming through, folks. We have to learn how to do it. So I'm gonna ask you this. You said self-care is not a bubble bath; it's a
Well,
boundary.
can I go back to something really quickly?
Okay, go first, and then we'll go back to our bubble bath.
So you were saying, like, how do we do that? Like, most of us gravitate toward that. Pay attention to the story you tell yourself about your life. Pay attention to the story you tell yourself about your kids, your partner, your boss, your coworkers. Like, I used to tell myself a story all the time of how it's not fair, that my friends had kids that they could put in timeout and mine sends me to the ER. It's not fair. Well, that story's true. But the question you have to ask yourself, because your story shifts your biology, is my story serving me? And we live in this happiness culture, this positivity culture, which is great, but your brain can't go from negative to positive. It can't jump from this sucks to this is awesome, but it can go from negative to neutral. So your thoughts are really powerful. Pay attention to some of those stories that you're telling yourself, like, this guy cut me off. What a jerk. Okay, instead, maybe it's, this guy has diarrhea and he's in a hurry. I mean, that's obviously what I think to myself, but really it's like, instead of going from I can't do it, it's I'll figure it out. Instead of this sucks, it's not fair, it is what it is. Instead of, this is the worst, I'll, one step at a time. And so what you can do is train your brain to start pushing back on some of those narratives that have become just habit. Most of our thoughts, to your point, are repetitive. 95% of them are repetitive. So what that means is that our mental habits, our thoughts, are driving our behavior and our neuro and biochemistry, and most of us never stop to challenge them. Your thoughts and feelings aren't facts, they're habits.
I like that too. I think that's a great point, right? That, folks, it's not about going from negative to positive. It's go from negative to neutral.
And if you're one of those naturally gifted positive people and you're at neutral, then great, you can go to positive.
Right.
But I have depression, so my brain doesn't operate like someone who doesn't have depression, right?
Like
It's right. So, I mean, it's harder for me. So, like, the irony of a depressed motivational speaker is not lost on me, but it's why I feel so strongly about it, because I have to practice these skills every single day. And it's just a collection of these skills that over time build to help you navigate the tough stuff.
I love all of it. I'm loving all of it. And folks, we're going to go from resilience to evolvability in a minute. I want to go to the bubble bath. Not I want to go take a bubble bath. That's not what I said, folks. I want to go from that bubble bath to boundary statement you made.
Mm-hmm.
Other than the cell phone, give our audience a boundary that might be a kind of generic, because we've got so many different types of people and you're different on, but a boundary they should look at and say, I need to build this wall, this fence, this door, whatever the boundary piece is going to be.
Well, for me, it looks like I don't check my phone on Saturday. I turn it off. I just turn it off. I feel like you need a device-free day, or at least a device-free hour. You need a digital detox. So to me, that's a boundary. Or sleep, right? I love to binge watch my favorite shows, but a boundary is every night at 10 p.m., regardless of where I am in the show. My habit is I go to sleep. I go in my bedroom. Like, that is just a boundary I've set for myself. I had double fusion back surgery 2 summers ago. Worst pain I've ever experienced. I have a degenerative disc disease. So one of my boundaries had to become what I eat, because the food you eat can either cause inflammation or heal your body. And I was huge on cookies and cake and carbs and all that stuff that I love. And when I asked my doctor how I could best manage pain other than opiates, because they made me feel awful, he said, you're not going to like it, but go carnivore. Like, just go carnivore for a little while. So I did it for 2 weeks, strict carnivore. And my boundary was I threw out everything that was not meat. I literally threw it all away. And it was hell, and it sucked, and I hated it. And I'll be honest, I've slowly introduced back vegetables and fruit and sauce and the things that I like. But to this day, unless I'm at a restaurant or it's a special occasion, I don't eat bread. I don't eat my favorite thing in the world, which are tortillas. I try to limit it. That's my boundary, because I know how much different my body feels. My energy, my pain, my depression, my mood. So boundaries can look like anything. It can look like if somebody sends you an email or a text that makes you mad, a boundary could be, I sleep before I respond. It's not magic. It's just, you're not creating walls, you're creating guardrails. And sometimes you have to be flexible. I might say I don't email after 7 p.m. or 6 p.m. Sure, there might be an occasion where I have to. It doesn't mean I failed. But you're setting up these protective guardrails so that you don't have to work so hard. Our brain is exhausted. You make thousands of decisions every day. The average person makes over 200 decisions about food every single day. And every one of those decisions drains your energy and cognitive bandwidth. So a boundary for me was I eat eggs every freaking morning. It's boring, but I don't have to make a decision on what I'm going to eat. So these can be in any area of your life.
Folks, go build a boundary, right? And you can always make the boundary tighter later, right? If
Or
you don't have
looser.
that bedtime boundary, make it 11 o'clock and then work it to 10:30 and then work it to 10 o'clock. You don't have to say, oh my God, I got to go extreme or nothing.
Right.
Boundaries are key. That is self-care. That is a great point. We're talking with Anne Grady, the author of EvolvAbility. I will get those words all correct. Growing forward when life goes sideways. You can grab your copy at evolvability.com. EVOLV ability.com. All right, Anne, you gave us resilience. I don't want to only bounce back because, as we said, if I just keep bouncing back, history is going to keep knocking me back. Let's evolve a little bit past resilience. Let's talk about that next step.
Well, I break the book down into 6 pillars, and EVOLVE is an acronym. So it stands for emotional aptitude, values, optimization of your time, energy, and attention, leadership, not by title, but by influence, versatility, and empowerment. And together, these 6 skills are the tools that you need when change hits. They're the tools you need to grow instead of get buried by it. Most of us naturally resist change, and it's because change is not a logistical process, it's an emotional change. I mean, think about it like this. There was a study, you've probably heard of this, Chad. They did this really well-known study where they took patients who had undergone coronary bypass surgery. And they told them, look, you have to change your lifestyle, the way you eat, how much you exercise, quit smoking, or you'll be back on the operating table or worse. Despite the warning, less than 10% of those patients made change. Like, think about that. Your doctor's like, if you don't change, you die. And your answer is, yeah, but there's queso, right? Change is emotional. So the first step is understanding, reading, recognizing, and responding to emotions, yours and others, in a way that lets you manage your life instead of being managed by it. So, for example, in that pillar, one of the things that I learned that was very helpful for me is that stress is a physical sensation and you can't think your way out of it.
Right.
Worry is the cognitive component of anxiety. Stress is the physical component. Anxiety is when stress and worry move in together. And so you have to deal with each differently. Stress, you have to interrupt physically, meaning splash cold water on your face, engage your senses, think of things that you can see or smell or taste or hear or touch. You have to get out of your head and into your body, whereas worry is the cognitive part of it. I'm a worrier. And so worrying, I've learned that just because you have a thought, A, doesn't mean you need to give it a microphone. And B, it's the mental equivalent of junk mail. You don't open every envelope. You don't apply to every credit card application that you're sent because you didn't request it. You don't have to open it. Somewhere along the line, we learned that if I think it, it must be true. And that worrying becomes a habit, and your brain thinks, well, at least I'm taking some form of control and helping make the outcome better by worrying about it. Worry is an unwanted thought. You can't control it. Ruminating and worrying is where you get to take back control. So one technique I use is simply recognizing I'm having the thought that I'm going to screw this up. I'm having the thought that I'm going to miss my flight. I'm having the thought that I shouldn't have eaten that. And then you get to decide, okay, I had the thought. Do I want to keep it going? You get to choose. You're no longer inside of it. You're observing it. You're more objective. And then you distract yourself with something else. Or better yet, give yourself a 10-minute window every day and let yourself worry on purpose. And when the timer goes off, if you have another worry later in the day, write it on a sticky note and visit it during your worry window tomorrow. So the research shows that your brain is going to worry irregardless. So if you give it a dedicated time to do it, you're basically training your brain to direct its attention where you want it to go, not where it's going on its own, which is typically pretty unhelpful.
Can I make an add to that, folks? Don't put that worry window just before bed.
Or right after you wake up.
Right.
That's when your brain is the weakest, cognitively speaking. So yes, 100%.
You don't want that worry window before you go to bed and then be like, okay, now I'm going to go to sleep and everything's awesome, because it's not going to be.
But if you've ever put your head on at night, if you've ever put your head on your pillow at night and then all of a sudden you're running this mental marathon, right? So I use cognitive shuffling to calm my brain down. And if you're not familiar, it's basically giving your brain a task that is engaging enough to keep you from worrying, but not so engaging it keeps you awake. And so you could do anything. I think of things that start with each letter of the alphabet. So I'll lie there and think alpaca, aardvark, anteater. I forgot to send the email. Bobcat, bear, bunny. Why did I eat that? Cat, cougar, right? And what you're doing is it's a form of meditation. You're training your brain to direct its energy where you want it to go. Eventually, your brain gets tired and goes to sleep. Sometimes you get to zebra and have to start all over again, but it's a way to train your brain to go where you want it to go.
I do box breathing.
That's great too.
That's mine, right? I let my brain count the 4 seconds in, hold 4 seconds, 4 seconds out, 4 seconds to hold. And
the only thing
if I make it to a minute, folks, it's amazing. I'm asleep well before that. My brain's like, okay, we're bored.
The only thing about box breathing is that the exhale is what relaxes the nervous system. So if you can extend the exhale and make it longer than the inhale. So I'll take a deep belly breath in, hold it for just a second, and then a long, slow, extended exhale. 3 of those start to reset your nervous system.
Yes.
So find what works for you, but extending the exhale is what activates the relaxation response.
Folks, and that's why you've heard Bob and I talk about from a session we had probably in our first half of our first season, maybe, where we learned from our guest at that time, 7-11 breathing, right? In for 7 seconds and then out for 11. That way you're the extra long on the exhale. Maybe we won't call it box breathing. We'll tell the SEALs to change it to like parallelogram breathing or something like that. So it works. Okay. I've had the pleasure, and I think we could go for another hour or two. We like to keep our episodes where they are for our audience. I've had the pleasure of talking with Anne Grady. You're not done, ma'am. The author of EvolvAbility, Growing Forward When Life Goes Sideways, and the adopted mother of 2 donkeys. So, I mean, she's all over the place, folks, with what she's got, which means her stories in the book are going to be entertaining as well and give you education as you're going, as you got here. You can check it out at EvolvAbility.com to learn more about it. Okay, Anne, I'm going to put you on the clock.
Okay.
When I say go, I'm going to put you on the clock. You get 1 minute. I don't care if you repeat something that was so important that you said that you just can't get it out of your head. I don't care if there's something I did not ask you about that you have on your heart that you're like, I have to share this with everybody before we get out of here. I hadn't worked it in yet, Chad. Whatever it is, the last minute belongs to you. Go.
All right. So making decisions under pressure is exhausting. You can give your brain a mental shortcut by answering these 2 questions. Whenever you're stuck, whenever you're faced with a problem or a decision, ask yourself, what value matters most to me in this situation and which choice reflects it? So if your value is balance, do you take the promotion? Maybe not. If your value is courage in that situation, should you speak up? Yes. So we all face these tough choices and we make lists of pros and cons and we go back and forth. Instead, pick a value that matters to you in that situation and make the choice that reflects it. It simplifies decision-making and problem solving.
It simplifies decision-making and problem solving as long as, audience, you know your values.
Right.
I should be able to walk up to you and say, what are your top 3 values? And you should know them immediately and be in a position to understand. Because if you don't know your values and you're wishy-washy on them, you're never going to make a decision that moves you in the right direction.
But I would say different values apply to different situations, right? So if it's a personal thing, it might be my family, but if it's a work team, it might be integrity or respect. So I think you can have different values that serve in different situations, but when you're faced with a really tough one, that guides you. And teams that have shared values don't have to hold each other accountable because shared values create clear expectations. So define what they look like. If your team says they value respect, how do you demonstrate that in a meeting? What does it look like? And once you're clear on that, everybody has a playbook, right? You take the guesswork of how you treat each other, and not just how do we show respect in meetings when everybody's rested and happy and productive. It's when the shit hits the fan and we're exhausted and cranky and angry. How do we show respect in meetings then?
When
Identify
life
the
goes
observable.
sideways.
Exactly. Identify those behaviors ahead of time so you don't have to guess when you're in the middle of the meeting.
Perfect. Folks, my number one value, always, every situation, it's loyalty. That's the number one value to me. That's why we're here each and every week for you, our audience, because even though I don't see you and might not even know who some of you are, I'm loyal to you to bring the value that we can. And Anne, we appreciate you sharing your piece of that knowledge here today. Folks, check out her book, check out the website, learn more about Anne, and be nice to donkeys because, well, why not? Until our next episode, folks, as always, do good.